What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Sector for Nerds, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars The Clone Wars Retro Discussions. Today we're here to talk about Season 2, Episode 9, Grievous Intrigue. This episode was directed by Giancarlo Volpe. He was just recently on the Avatar Braving the Elements podcast talking about his work on that show, so shout out to him. And this episode was written by Ben Edlin. The cookie for this episode: for everything you gain, you lose something else. Man, that's a deep one this week. I mean, granted, a lot of these are, but this one in particular. Before I turn it over to Intro Guy, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, as a reminder, starting February 21st, Wednesday, February 21st, we will be getting weekly discussions on Star Wars The Bad Batch Season 3. Every single Wednesday, so make sure you guys are staying tuned for that. Alright, you guys, it's that time of the day. My goodness, Intro Guy, what are these nicknames you gave me for this week? Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the man who this week wants to be referred to as the Dashing One, the Big Homie, the Ace that keeps acing, the American Nightmare. Intro Guy, take it away. Diabolical defeat. Though Republic victories outnumber their losses, the Jedi have been unable to stop Separatist advances in the Outer Rim. The ever-elusive General Grievous stays one step ahead of his opponents. With thousands of droid armies at his command, the Jedi can never predict where Grievous will strike next. Until now. This episode just gets us right into the action, you guys. We got General Grievous back. It has been a minute, you guys, since we have seen the good general. He was in the first half of Season 1, very heavily. And it's interesting because when we go from that season to this season, we go from him being in I don't even remember how many episodes it was off the top of my head, but it was at least 6 or 8 of them. And we fast forward to this season, and he's only got 2 episodes. But it is always good to see Grievous again. He's got the droids board in the Republic Venator. Eeth Koth has got some boys waiting on the bridge ready to deal with them. Doesn't work out though, because when Grievous shows up on the bridge, the commando droids take out the majority of the clones there, except for the commander. Those commando droids, man, they're good ones. They put up a heck of a fight, and I feel like it's been a minute since we've seen them.
Jedi. Grievous.
They take out most of the clones, like I said. They give Eeth Koth a good run for his money. But then once they finally take them all out, in comes the Magna Guards. They take out the clone commander. They surround Eeth Koth. Grievous just hops up on the table. He's having a jolly good old time because he knows Koth is outnumbered. Eeth Koth calls him a coward and a murderer, and Grievous is just like, murderer? Just the way that he delivered that line. Shout out to Matthew Wood.
Eeth Koth, isn't it? I've been looking forward to meeting you.
Your reputation precedes you, General. The reputation of a coward and a murderer.
Murderer? Is it murder to rid the galaxy of you, Jedi filth?
Man, I gotta tell you though, you guys, as a fan of the micro series, this opening was very disappointing to me. And it wasn't the fact that, it wasn't because Grievous had won, because that's a good thing. It was sort of how he did it. In the micro series, there is a battle, the first scene that we're introduced to General Grievous. He takes on 5 Jedi all at once without any help or no Magna Guards, nothing. It's just him versus 5 Jedi, and he defeats them all. Yeah, I think 1 or 2 of them might have been Padawans, but the other, I mean, you're also dealing with Ki-Adi-Mundi, Shaak-Ti, Aayla Secura. These are high, level Jedi, if we're talking about ranking in the order, you know what I'm saying? And here, he's going up, yes, a member of the Jedi Council, but it's one-on-one. They're sitting there doing their battle, and eventually the Magna Guards get involved. Eeth Koth force pushes Grievous, he doesn't see it coming, and the Magna Guard hits him one time with the staff, and he gets shocked. Grievous gets back up, goes for a strike, Koth blocks it, Magna Guard hits him with a second strike. At this point, Eeth Koth is now on his knees, Grievous goes for another strike, gets blocked, the Magna Guard hits him a third time, and Eeth Koth is now, run out of strength, so Grievous just grabs him by the throat. I'm like, man, this is just pathetic. And listen, I understand, and we talked about this a lot last season when it came to the Layer of Grievous episode, and that was a really good discussion that I had. For those who haven't seen that episode, I highly recommend you check it out. But one of the things that I kind of alluded to or would talk about is how I understand why they made Grievous the way that they did in this show, because you think about the line that Mace Windu says in Revenge of the Sith, right? General Grievous will run and hide as he always does. He's a coward. George Lucas very much wanted to display him as a coward. I also think, in a way, you're kind of contradicting yourself, like, by continuing to call him a coward, but yet this dude is also, like, can be a freaking badass and can wield 4 lightsabers and do it very well. Like, this dude, I feel like, shouldn't be afraid of a fight. But again, I understand it from George's perspective, where I think he wanted to take the character, and he is a bad guy, right? So I get, you know, you're trying to portray the bad guys a certain way, like, oh, you gotta cheat to win. It's just like when you see the micro series and then you see this and it's like, oh man, like, come on. Now, I will say, one of my favorite Grievous moments ever is a moment before he has a fight with those 5 Jedi. And he goes on this speech about how, like, you know, make peace with the Force now. This is your final hour. But I'm not completely without mercy. I will grant you a warrior's death. And I'm like, oh, this is such a dope speech. The one that we get right here in the Clone Wars animated series, when he contacts the Jedi Council, it's not on that level, but it is damn near close.
Greetings, Jedi! It would seem once again one of your order has lost his way. And even better, a leading member of your Jedi Council. Listen to me, Jedi. I do not care about your politics. I do not care about your republic. I only live to see you die. But death will not come so easily for Master Koth. I will make him suffer endlessly, because I know that is more painful for you all.
My big question about this, though, is why were the younglings in the room when they played this transmission? Like, they couldn't have kicked the younglings out before you played it? I feel like you're kind of scarring them right now. Ahsoka and Barriss were in the room, though, so shouts out to them. Yeah, they had a lot of Jedi in this meeting, like all, like, the council members and stuff. Even Commander Wolf made an appearance to, like, tell Commander Plo that he found something in the transmission. Speak of Commander Wolf, man, he gonna be coming back for Bad Batch Season 3. I can't wait for that. And they see that, Eeth Koth is giving out hand signals, right? Like, Seleucami System, Sector J19. And it's funny, because speaking of Bad Batch, you guys, in that first episode ever of the Bad Batch, and at the very end when Hunter says, plot a course for J19, the switch, like, immediately went off in my head of what that meant. I was like, J19, I know I've heard that before. I'm like, oh yeah, Seleucami System, Sector J19, because, you know, I got all this Clone Wars stuff running through my head, because I've seen a lot of these episodes so many times. My brother made a Clone Wars reference to me last night. I already forgot what it was, but I just remember he said it, and, like, just immediately I knew what he meant. Him and I have, like, you know, we could just quote anything from the Clone Wars, and, you know, we'd just be sitting there, like, laughing about it, or just doing other quotes. Both of us just absolutely love this show. One Jedi that we're introduced to, though, in this episode that is making her Clone Wars debut is Gallia. She's sitting there like, Seleucami, but intelligence report that Grievous has no ships near that sector. And I love how Yoda was just straight up like, yeah, but so often inaccurate our intelligence is. Man, the reason, though, why I love this episode so much is because there's so much action in it. And we saw a bunch of action at the start, and pretty much from, like, the rest of this episode going forward, when we get to the Battle of Seleucami, like, it is just action heavy. And as it should be, like, this show is about the Clone Wars. It's supposed to be about these action heavy battles and whatnot. We get, like, a space battle as well in here, so it's you love to see it. Obi-Wan and Grievous have a little bit of a back and forth via hologram. They're like, oh, General, I knew one day I'd catch up to you. And Grievous is like, oh, I assume you're here to bring me to justice? Obi-Wan just says, you know me too well. And Grievous is like, indeed I do, and turns off the transmission. But he also says, be alert. Where there is Kenobi, you will always find Skywalker not far behind. That is a clever man. He knows how this stuff works. He knows Anakin well enough now. This man's responsible for, like, blowing up the Malevolence, blowing up his secret spy station. Like, he knows Anakin Skywalker. The man's got a reputation at this point.
Anakin Skywalker. I was expecting someone with your reputation to be a little older.
Anakin and Gallia sneak aboard the command ship. Grievous boards Obi-Wan's ship. They have a little bit of a back and forth, and Grievous is like, oh, so tell me, Obi-Wan, is everything going as planned? Do you think that Anakin has rescued Master Koth yet? And that's how you kind of know, right? Like, it's a trap. You got like a dozen commando droids that surround him, but Anakin did bring up a good point.
Well, at least they're not destroyer droids.
Well, at least they're not destroyer droids. I mean, okay, but if they were like destroyers without shields, y'all would have been fine. You ever notice that sometimes sometimes destroyers just don't have shields, or they just don't use them? This is the theory that I've put together about destroyer droids. And like for me and my college mate, this is our lore for the destroyer droids. The nickname that I've dubbed for these destroyer droids, the ones with no shields, are called budget destroyers. And it basically is all in the name. They were made on budget. The shields costed them a lot of money, so we gotta cut costs to save money for the war and stuff. How do we save money? Well, let's just give you destroyers, but just don't put the shields on them. That'll save us X amount of credits. Just leave them off. Yeah, that's my headcanon for this. Man, Eeth Gallia, though, takes out most of the commando droids here, which was interesting. It was almost like she was the X factor here that Grievous wasn't prepared for. He was prepared for Anakin to board the bridge, right? And like, oh, we could probably just take him, send a dozen droids up there. They can take him all on his own. But I don't think he was expecting like another Jedi to be with him. Or like perhaps not a Jedi like the caliber of Eeth Gallia. Like maybe if Ahsoka was with Anakin, like that would have been expected, like she is his Padawan. But if we're looking at like rankings here, again, if we go back to those rankings, Eeth Gallia right now is a much higher rank than Ahsoka is. Obi-Wan and Grievous start battling on the bridge of the Republic ship. They have this back and forth bit of dialogue that I really enjoyed between the two, talking about like Grievous's motivation for the war, right?
Your plans have come to ruination, Jedi.
I hear a lot of talking, General, but in the final accounting, what does all the talk get you? A futile quest for power, a mutilated body, and your place is Dooku's errand boy.
I'm no errand boy. I am not in this war for Dooku's politics. I am the leader of the most powerful droid army the galaxy has ever seen.
An army with no loyalty, no spirit, just programming. What have you to show for all your power? What have you to gain?
The future. A future where there are no Jedi.
Eventually this fight ends, and I feel like this kind of just sums up Grievous as a whole in the animated series. And again, as much as I love Grievous, but it's just one of those moments where, you know, Obi-Wan sees the Magna Guard lying on the ground, the dead Magna Guard that he's already killed, and he chucks it at Grievous, and Grievous just goes flying at the wall. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. But then Grievous, like, kind of gets back up. He gets away. He starts crawling towards his ship. Cody and the clones have an encounter with Grievous. This I actually enjoyed, too. Because, like, you know the clones aren't gonna win. But, man, they actually do put up a fight against Grievous. And I know, like, maybe if you take it, like, animated Grievous, like, maybe this doesn't say much. But I still, like, every time I see, like, an underdog-type character going up against Grievous, whether it's the clones here, whether it's the Gungans that we see later, like, even when stuff happens, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're about to take on freaking Grievous. He like does a force repulse to the clones, but like without actually using the force. He just chucks them all off his back. Grievous at this point has ordered his ship to fire on the Republic ship that, you know, the ships are still attached, sir, but, you know, Grievous just wants it destroyed. This sequence I really love as well, where Obi-Wan, they're rushing through the tunnel to get to the other ship, and because the Republic Venator's starting to go down a bit, right? Like, the tunnel starts leaning one way, Grievous falls, Obi-Wan tries to cut him, but Grievous blocks it, and they have, like, this small fight in the tunnel, which was really sick. Obi-Wan, you guys, was, like, using one hand on his lightsaber, and the other, it was like he was kind of using the force to kind of balance himself. I thought that was well done. But then Grievous ends up climbing to the top or whatever because it continues to fall. And then Grievous is like, hey, well, until we meet again, Kenobi, huh? And then Gallia steps out from behind and starts battling Grievous for a second.
Until we meet again, Kenobi.
But then the tunnel gets disconnected, right? So it's like they're all going to be sucked into the vacuum of space. Cody grabs Obi-Wan's arm. I think one or two of the clones end up falling out. Gallia has like a cable that she launches out into the tunnel. She's able to get everybody in. And Obi-Wan has like this reckless moment where he says, hurry, we can still catch him. Like he is so set on capturing Grievous. I mean, the two are rivals. That's what they very much have put over, like especially even in this episode too. Like, oh, not to worry, the good general and I have a history. Now, if you want to talk about karma is my word of the day here, because you know, Grievous ordered for his ship to open fire on the Republic ship. And that same Republic ship that had falling debris was responsible for Grievous's transport getting hit and crashing down to the surface of Seleucami. It's ironic. Meanwhile, Anakin picks up the Jedi. They get back to the Venator. Obi-Wan tells Anakin, you'll have to come on the space path while Rex, Cody, and I head to the surface. Obi-Wan's like, I think I can manage on my own. Which I very much question this logic. Now, obviously, Anakin and Grievous can't meet. These are the rules and regulations that have been established by George Lucas. I get it. But, like, you couldn't have had 80 Gallia go with you? Why would you not? This is like the top general for the Separatist Alliance. Why would you just send one person to go after him when you can send multiple? That part of it just never made any sense. Like, if you want to have Anakin up there, like, you can make the argument, right? Like, Anakin's specialty is space, right? Like, he's a good pilot. He can command the space battle. Eeth Koth is hurt, so that takes him out of the picture. But, you know, all Gallia said at the end was, I'll get Master Koth to a medical frigate. And I'm like, well, but what, you can't help Obi-Wan, like, capture the top general of the enemy team? At least we all live to fight another day, as Anakin says at the end. I remember you guys growing up, I really enjoyed this episode, and I think this, honestly, might be one of my top 5 favorite episodes for Star Wars The Clone Wars Season 2. I love this episode. I think between the 2 Grievous episodes that we get this season, between this one and the next one, I have a gut feeling that people like the next one more. Not so much for the Grievous side of things, but more for the Captain Rex side of things. And I respect that. I just remember, like, as a kid, I was like, man, I want to see Grievous back. It's been a minute since we've been Grievous, and then, like, we finally got him, and it's like, oh, cool. And this one had more Grievous. I loved the action. I loved the story. But you guys love to let me know what you think about this episode in the comments below. Make sure to let me know your thoughts. Obviously, be respectful of everybody's opinions as well. But also, you guys, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, share this video with others to help support the channel. Oh yeah, next week, we're going to be talking about Clone Wars Season 2, Episode 10, The Deserter. Like and subscribe, share this video with others. I'll see you guys next time.